When you sign on the dotted line to face a fighter like Terence "Bud" Crawford, talking trash is the easy part. Making bold predictions and putting on a show in the build-up is simple. But actually getting in the ring and defeating a man who is not only a world-class fighter but also a generational talent is an entirely different story. For most challengers, the mouth writes checks the fists can never cash. Crawford has made a career out of proving this reality over and over again, breaking down opponents who believed they had the key to solving him, only to find themselves unraveling under his pressure, his speed, his adaptability, and above all, his vicious mean streak once he smells weakness. Many fighters over the years have claimed that they saw nothing special in Crawford, that they did not understand why other opponents seemed to give him so much respect, or why he was often considered the pound-for-pound best fighter alive. Yet when the bell rang, the same script played out. The doubters found themselves gradually stripped of confidence, their strengths neutralized, their weaknesses exposed, until finally they were either stopped or left on the scorecards with little more than a brave but fruitless effort to show for their night's work. As Saul Canelo Alvarez and his fans recently learned to respect Crawford after speculation of a super fight, so too did names like Jose Benavidez Jr., Hank Lundy, and Deary Jean. Each came in with determination, and each left humbled. Bud's WBO welterweight title defense in October of 2018 against Jose Benavidez Jr. was one of those nights that perfectly captured what makes him special. Benavidez had entered the bout determined to make an impact and to expose Crawford as overrated. At the pre-fight face-off, he stared with defiance, trying to project dominance. Yet raising the stakes against Crawford is rarely a good idea. The Omaha native thrives on animosity and challenge. Once that bell rang, the contrast between talk and performance began to emerge. Crawford, as is his custom, spent the first round largely making reads. A natural switch hitter, he used his southpaw stance to establish control of distance. Benavidez tried to assert his jab early, flicking it to Crawford's body and attempting to test Bud's reactions. Crawford, however, immediately adjusted, sitting over the top of Benavidez's jab with his own right hand from the southpaw stance and sneaking straight lefts into the body. Already the subtle adjustments were paying dividends. Even in exchanges where Benavidez had some success, landing a few rights or doubling up punches, Crawford's ability to respond with body shots was obvious. By the third round, Crawford was investing heavily in shots to Benavidez's midsection, punches that would take effect later. Benavidez remained composed for a time. His peekaboo guard and counterpunching instincts allowed him to make moments competitive. But Crawford was already mapping the fight out, using small angles, slipping just out of range, then returning with combinations that thudded to the body and head. As rounds wore on, particularly by the seventh, the accumulation of Crawford's bodywork was visible. Benavidez slowed, his breathing heavier, his activity dwindling. He found himself covering up in spots, something dangerous to do against a man like Crawford, who takes note of every sign of fatigue and pounces without mercy. By the eighth round, the tide had clearly turned. Crawford's movement, his sharp jab, and his quick counters were dominating exchanges. Benavidez, once confident, was fading, trying to survive, still hoping perhaps for a counterpuncher's miracle. Yet Bud gave him no openings. He varied his attack, splitting the guard upstairs, digging to the ribs, pivoting out of range, and then punishing from new angles. When the 12th round began, Crawford sensed the finish. He pressed forward, combinations flowing, his timing razor-sharp. With half a minute left, Crawford unleashed a devastating right hand following a short uppercut. Benavidez crumpled, the fight essentially decided. Crawford had once again delivered the exclamation mark, proving himself not just a winner but a finisher. The crowd roared as Bud celebrated, fully aware of the statement he had just made. This performance echoed another of Crawford's memorable victories, his bout with Hank Lundy. Lundy, a rugged old-school contender from Philadelphia, had tried to make things personal before the fight. He promised to expose Crawford, to rough him up and drag him into uncomfortable territory. Crawford, never one to shy away from such talk, welcomed the challenge with a grin. From the opening bell, He looked eager to dissect the loud challenger. In the first round, Lundy actually had moments of success. He landed a clean left hook that got the crowd's attention and showed his willingness to engage. Crawford, starting in an orthodox stance, quickly switched to southpaw, as is often his habit. Lundy tried to match the switch, but the difference in fluidity was glaring. Where Crawford became sharper and more dynamic when he changed stance, Lundy looked awkward, forced, and unable to find consistent rhythm. Still, his early aggression gave him the opening round on some cards. But as history often shows, Crawford's slow starts are deliberate. He downloads information, gauges distance, and then flips the switch. By the second round, he was already countering more effectively, clipping Lundy as he came in. By the third, he had Lundy's timing and distance mastered. Lundy, brave as he was, lacked the speed, craft, and defensive reflexes to truly trouble Crawford. Each exchange tilted further Bud's way. His jab was not just a rangefinder but a punishing weapon. His left hand, whipping across as either a hook or straight, repeatedly snapped Lundy's head back. By the fourth round, Crawford had assumed near total control. The fifth brought the inevitable conclusion. After momentarily wobbling Lundy with a sharp left, Crawford pounced with clinical precision. Lundy sagged into the ropes, then down to the canvas from a crushing shot. The referee, Steve Willis, gave him a chance, but Crawford swarmed mercilessly, landing heavy punches until the stoppage was called. Another challenger silenced, another victory stamped with Crawford's trademark blend of intelligence and cruelty. Deary Jean experienced a similar fate. The Canadian contender entered with confidence, believing he could steal early rounds against Crawford, who was often labeled a slow starter. Jean's plan was to use his long reach despite his shorter stature and surprise Bud with sharp jabs and quick combinations. In the opening round, the bout was cagey, with both men testing distance. Yet in the final seconds, Crawford delivered a quick, clean knockdown, immediately undercutting Jean's strategy. The supposed slow starter had struck fast, setting the tone. From then on, Jean was a man fighting uphill. Crawford, a southpaw for almost the entire fight, dictated range effortlessly. Jean tried throwing rights down the middle, the traditional answer against a left-handed fighter, but Crawford's head movement and footwork left him punching air. Bud's jab landed consistently, his straight left slammed home, and his defense was airtight. By the third round, Crawford was not only outboxing Jean but also outmuscling him, walking him down with a blend of subtle defense and precise offense. Jean had brief moments of defiance. In the fifth, he landed a right that caught Crawford clean. Bud, true to form, shook his head dismissively, the universal fighter's gesture meaning, "You didn't hurt me." In reality, it only lit his fuse. Crawford immediately retaliated, upping his pace, driving Jean back with combinations, swelling his face, and cutting him around the eye. The crowd could feel it. The finish was only a matter of time. By the ninth, Crawford's cruelty had surfaced fully. He battered Jean with head-snapping shots, driving him to the canvas. Jean, brave but battered, beat the count, but Crawford pressed harder. Switching seamlessly between stances, he pummeled Jean with lefts and rights, his accuracy unrelenting. Jean's corner even considered stopping the fight, towel in hand, but their fighter refused to surrender. It was only a brief reprieve. In the next round, Crawford closed the show. A heavy barrage culminated with Jean collapsing once more, and the referee stepped in to save him. It was domination, plain and simple, and another night that underlined why Crawford was increasingly being spoken of as the pound-for-pound best in the sport. These fights, taken together, tell the story of Crawford's career. He is not simply a fighter who wins. He is a fighter who dismantles. What makes him extraordinary is not just his speed, power, or athleticism, though he possesses all three. It is his adaptability. He can box orthodox or southpaw with equal comfort. He can pressure or counterpunch, depending on the need. He can fight in the pocket, exchanging in close quarters, or he can control distance with footwork and a stiff jab. More than anything, His ability to make adjustments mid-fight separates him from nearly everyone else. Opponents often enter with confidence. They believe they see flaws, his supposedly slow starts and his occasional tendency to be hit clean early. Yet within a few rounds, the same pattern repeats. Crawford takes their best, processes it, and then begins to apply a suffocating blend of pressure and precision. His opponents grow hesitant, their output dwindles, and their defense starts to crumble. He targets the body relentlessly, wearing them down physically, while mentally he drains them with the constant threat of counters. By the later rounds, many are simply shells of themselves, hoping to survive. But Crawford, almost uniquely among top champions, rarely lets them. He is a finisher in the truest sense. This is why fans and pundits call him a generational talent. His career has spanned multiple weight classes, from lightweight to junior welterweight to welterweight, and in each division he has captured world titles and unified belts. He does not simply move up for opportunities. He dominates, then conquers new ground. His knockout ratio remains high even as the opposition grows tougher and larger. His discipline outside the ring is matched only by his ferocity inside it. The question of how far Crawford can go remains a tantalizing one. At 36, he is already one of the sport's pound-for-pound kings. He has unified divisions, beaten every style put before him, and silenced every doubter. Could he go on to cement himself as one of the top 10 fighters of all time? Could he capture belts in yet another weight class, perhaps even testing himself against naturally bigger super welterweights? Could he become remembered not only as the greatest of his era, but as one of the greatest of any era? Only time will tell, but the evidence is compelling. Crawford has shown no decline in reflexes, no drop in hunger, and no erosion of skill. If anything, he looks sharper, more ruthless, and more confident than ever. Fighters who once dismissed him now speak his name with respect. Fans who doubted him now celebrate his brilliance. Every fight seems to add to his legend, every performance another reminder that Terence "Bud" Crawford is not merely special. He is extraordinary. And so, as the years roll forward, and new challengers sign their names on contracts and make their promises in front of cameras, one truth will remain. Talking is easy. Fighting Bud Crawford is something else entirely. Those who step in the ring with him quickly learn the same hard lesson. Against this generational talent, bravery alone is not enough. Strategy, toughness, skill, and heart are all required, yet even those may not be sufficient. For Crawford is a puzzle without a clear solution, a master of adaptation, and above all, a finisher who takes pride not only in winning but in doing so emphatically. How far can he go? As far as his discipline, his body, and his hunger will carry him. And given all he has shown so far, that distance may be farther than anyone in this era dares to predict.